I am Andy. I have the handle of Phoenix in the demo scene. I'm most known from the group Hornet, which did demo archives in the 90s, here with one other Hornet member. All right, so I'm supposed to do this demo scene primer for Notacon. I used to think it was Notacon, but that's probably because I confused it with Otakon. So, cut a little bit of time off, so let's get going with the presentation. In the beginning, there was a dot. We have to start simple here. And then, on the second day, the dot became a line. But the line was tired of one dimension. It wanted 3 dimensions, so the line became a cube. Cube's important now. Come on, you have to follow along. Okay. That cube said, I'd like some more lines, so I'm going to become a ball kind of thing. They said, I don't want to be a ball. I want to have something in the middle, unless the donut was created. We all love them. But then the donut looked naked. It wanted something on it, unless it was filled. Yeah. But it wanted little light, so it said, let there be lighting. And then there was shading. And then it said, go forth and multiply weird shapes. And they did, and they reproduced. Yay. 640 of them, to be exact. But then, the Dark Ages arrived, and there was nothing but a little bit of red on the screen. Those of you guys who watched a lot of demos, you probably know what this one is. By the way, there's supposed to be sound to this, and I'm not getting sound, so I probably should have tested that beforehand. Okay.
Do you get sound of your speakers if we unplug this?
Yeah.
Yes, you do. It's very
All
quiet.
right, so maybe it's just too quiet.
Turn it up.
There we go. See? Now it's much cooler. All right. And out of that darkness came strange new life forms. Now, because I mistakenly put these first few videos in DivX instead of XVid, it's kind of a pain, but I'm working through it. And little cute robotic creatures fell from the sky. And predators did prey upon them. All right, so that is my introduction. Welcome to the primer on the demo scene. Now, we have to start way back if you really want to get into it. So here we go, back to the early 80s, where the Gen X kids were growing up, and all these cool new home computers came out for only a few hundred, so they managed to talk their parents into getting them one for Christmas. So you recognize the names still, I'm sure: Commodore, Apple, Atari. And these kids, being the first ones to really make use of them, were the ones to discover all the neat things that they could do. And of course, they played games with them. They also got those for Christmas when they begged for them. So they had their collection of games, and they traded games with their friends. So this eventually, when they made copies of stuff, led to copy parties. This was more of a Europe phenomenon, really. They were held in school gymnasiums. And yeah, like I said, like most of them, or I should say most of us really, were in their teens back then. Few photos here from some 1980s copy parties in Europe, I forget which ones. Kind of looks fair for the most part. The guys on the right there are all gathered together. I believe they're watching some dirty movies while their parents weren't around. And yes, police did crack down upon some of these. Once they started hearing about this kind of backhanded stuff these kids were doing, they came to the rescue of the software companies, but that could be another story. That led to disk swapping. Back in the age of dial-up, they were transferring at 300 bytes a second, so it wasn't as easy and fun to upload and download stuff all the time, so they threw it on the floppy disks. Some of these here show an example of tag art from the graffiti crew. Each person would sign their name on a disk as they sent them back and forth through the mail. There were these couriers in the scene who this was their basic job, to spread out new releases and stuff, whether it be on bulletin boards or through the mail like this. And if you've ever heard of fake stamping or stamp faking, they had ways to sort of check out the post office to get stuff in the mail. So still hacking, just in something else. This is all about crack groups, of course. Not just Europe, but in the US and Canada as well. Organized crime, you could say, but crime is a point of view. All because of copy protection in games. But really, a lot of them just did it for fun, just to see if they could do it, really, and for bragging rights. And of course, each group wanted to have the first release of a certain game or application. And what did these groups make to present their first releases? They made crack intros. Intro, of course, introducing a game. Also called a loader before each game or application. This would, at first, like in the 1980s, the mid-80s or so, it was just, they drew a group logo, which they probably copied off some heavy metal album, and maybe had a few greetings there where they would say hello to their friends who also did this kind of cracking stuff. And then from there, they got a little bit more complicated as they wanted to one-up each other. Say, well, you got that great scroller and a logo. Well, I got these bars going up and down. Ooh. And it was very impressive back then, and it has dramatically improved ever since then. So let's take a look at a few of these old-time crack intros. Oh, and I should mention that they're still making these today. So this is from Fairlight, a group who actually is still active today, not just in, or actually not necessarily in cracking, but in intros as well, or demos. So this is from 1987, one of the original Commodore intros. Pretty simple. Has that fancy motor going up and down. Over and under the logo. I cut these short, so it should end pretty soon. Yeah. All right, the next one is a year later on the Amiga, where they had some more colors. From Red Sector. And better music. You forgot all about scrollers, but they didn't forget about you. 88. So yeah, that first Fairlight one, just to make you guys feel old, that was 20 years ago. Are there is here who is younger than 20? Yeah, that was made before you were born. All right, so. And by the way, thanks for being here, because otherwise we're just getting older and older, and it looks really sad to see just a bunch of 35-year-old guys hanging out doing the same stuff. So really, we appreciate your being here. This one is on DOS a few years later. A little more fancy in the effects, but still has that fun and cute chip music. And yeah, as you can see from the nice logo, graphics did become a big part in these. A lot of logo drawers took part in that. Well, that one was like 30 kilobytes or so. Probably like, yeah, in the DOS days, they were around that size. The first ones on C64 obviously had to be a little itty-bitty part of the disk. So,
is that the actual movie file you have, or the actual program itself?
I'm showing movies right now. It's a lot easier that way, and I don't have to play the whole thing. So as I said, crack intros are still alive today, possibly part because of nostalgia, but games are still being released, so they're still being hacked and spread. Now we're in the Windows era, so we don't really have to worry about them being tiny, but there actually are still groups making them about 64K or so. So it's the crack groups, to them, it's I don't know so much a tradition as their own little art form. So here is a more recent one. I picked another cutesy one. There are some not so cutesy ones as well, but this one is kind of oldish effects and on newer hardware. So then we get to BBS intros, where they would advertise the boards that you could call up to download this stuff. BBSs, for those who weren't around before the internets, were the main way to share stuff back then, dial up from your home. And of course, this intro making was really benefited not just demo scene or wares, but anything that was on that board. So it helped bring those little subcultures together. So the one little example I have should be familiar to most PC guys. It's another class.